Hello, my name is Jaden, and I love movies. I love them so much that I make a note and little review of every movie I watch. And at the end of the month, I take that list and I send it to my friend Quentin. I'm kind of like his movie filter for what he wants to maybe watch the following month. And so this month, I decided to take that list I normally send him and record it. So, Quentin, this is for you. This is everything I watched in October of 2022. So on October 2nd, the first movie I watched this month was Where the Crawdads Sing. I watched it with my sister. It was a nice little date night. I liked it. I'd never seen Daisy Edgar Jones in anything before. I thought she did a good job with the material she was given. I think it's a nice kind of pulpy soap opera drama, perfect for a quiet evening or just a nice weekend movie. Also, my sister, I hadn't read the book. My sister had. Apparently, it was pretty faithful. So if you're worried about that, I wouldn't be so much. I give Where the Crawdads Sing, directed by Olivia Newman, a 6 out of 10. Later that same night, my friend convinced me to watch M. Night Shyamalan's 2015 movie, The Visit. Now, if you know me, people who know me know I don't like scary movies at all. Not interested in watching horror films of pretty much any kind. And yet there I was watching The Visit. Thankfully, The Visit's not a horror movie. It's just a comedy. It's a very funny movie. Thank you, M. Night, for not scaring me and giving me a great time. I give The Visit, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, a 1 out of 10 because my personal rating system doesn't have a 0.
The girls, they like me. They think I'm sweet like candy. One girl looked at me like I was a Hershey. But
On October 6th, I watched not only one of my most anticipated movies of the fall awards season, but one of my most anticipated movies of the whole year. This was Amsterdam, the newest film by David O. Russell.
Do me a favor. Try to be optimistic.
Now, Silver Linings Playbook, American Hustle, two of my favorite movies of all time. So all the marketing, all the promotion for this, I fully expected it to join that list, and it just didn't. It's one that kind of fell short. Now, the central plot I really liked. The characters I thought were great. It has one of those plots where, unfortunately, it's a bit of a mystery, and the audience kind of figures it out too far in advance of the characters, in my opinion. And it's not one of those where it has a dramatic tension like we know something the characters don't. I think we're kind of supposed to get it at the same time as them. I'm not really sure, but it didn't work for me in that way. Now, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, especially Christian Bale. Christian Bale is really good. He's been really good in everything I've seen this year. The main cast is pretty fantastic. They're doing a great job. The supporting cast, nothing felt quite right about their characters. Rami Malek, Mike Myers, Taylor Swift was not great. I'm sorry. Album's nice. The acting was not very good in this movie. I'm glad she wasn't a mainstay character in this one. I don't know. It's not that I don't feel disappointed in the way that I thought I would be after seeing this. I'm more surprised. I keep thinking about it, and I keep thinking my opinion is going to change. I hope it does. I hope this is one that grows on me over time more than anything. I hope I warm up to it. But at the moment, I wanted to come away from this, kinetic thriller mystery movie, and I'm coming away kind of puzzled with the whole thing altogether. At this time, I'm going to give Amsterdam, directed by David O. Russell, a 3 out of 10. On October 7th, I watched a classic, an all-time classic, as part of a movie tournament bracket I'm able to participate in. This is 1948's The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Now, this is the first time I had seen this film, starring Humphrey Bogart. There's no way I will say anything about this movie that's original. There's no way I'm breaking ground critically here. So I'm just going to say what I thought of it. I thought it was really great. Of course, I see why this has stood the test of time, why this is a classic. It was really nice to see Bogey kind of playing against type. Typically, he plays these ultra competent, ultra confident men who kind of have control of most situations. In this, he was kind of unhinged, definitely playing a more antagonistic role. I thought he did a great job with it. All central performances were good. I know this is one of, if not the first film to shoot on location. So, of course, all of those shots were amazing. There's no reason this shouldn't deserve its status as a classic. Did I vote for it in the matchup it was on? No, because it was going against Toy Story 2, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. So I could not, in good conscience, vote it, but it did win. Of course, it won against Toy Story 2. But I couldn't live with myself if I was the deciding vote against one of my favorite movies of my life. Regardless, I give The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, directed by John Huston, an 8 out of 10. Now, while it's not technically a movie per se, sometimes I like to add on, like limited series, short films. In this case, it's Marvel's first foray into special presentations. This is Werewolf by Night. I watched that on October 12th. I don't know about you. I hadn't heard a word of this before it had dropped on Disney+. Now, I don't go out of my way to dig up every scrap of Disney MCU news. I definitely used to do that. I don't really do that anymore. I kind of like being surprised, so this was a welcome surprise. It's just that I'm on the internet constantly, so it's weird that there is surprises left. It's kind of nice. I don't know if this was a well-kept secret or if it was just marketed not very well, but there it was on Disney+. I just kept seeing these great reviews come out for it. Surprisingly, I had no real intention of watching it. Now, again, not a scary movie fan, not a horror fan, and yet I felt compelled to watch Werewolf by Night based on the great word of mouth it was getting. Now, I knew it couldn't be, the scariest product. It is a Disney Plus original product. I didn't think they were going to put anything incredibly shocking on there, and I was right. But what I did see out of Werewolf by Night was amazing. I thought it was a stroke of genius to set it in black and white. It let them get away with actually more than I was expecting, in the vein of horror and horrific images on screen. I think they pushed the envelope in a really nice way. I fully agree with the heaps of praise it is getting. I recommend checking out Werewolf by Night. I think it's a really cool project, and I'm really happy to see the MCU and Disney still pushing these things, still taking a little bit of risks like this, even if it is on smaller projects. I'd love to see more, Marvel special presentations in the future. Oh yeah, did I mention this was directed by Michael freaking Giacchino? I don't know how he finds the time in between composing the scores for every movie that has come out in the last 5 to 10 years. I don't know where he found the time to direct this, but good on you, man. Hats upon hats off to you. I give Werewolf by Night, directed by Michael Giacchino, an 8 out of 10. Speaking of MCU Disney products, the day later, the day after I finished Werewolf by Night, the finale of She-Hulk came out, so I thought I'd give a little bit of a retrospective on the season as a whole. That was on October 13th, if I didn't mention that. Throughout its 9-episode run, I kept hearing different reviews online, kept seeing different people review it, and it was pretty mixed. Mixed to the point where they all kind of said the same thing. It's fine. I will add my own voice to that echo chamber and say, yeah, it's fun. It's a fun sitcom set in the Marvel Universe. I think Tatiana Maslany as Jennifer Walters was a good main character to follow. She definitely led the show well. I think that was a good central performance. It was actually episodic, which is kind of rare for Marvel shows. Even though they are shows, they kind of play like a long movie, which in general I do prefer, but it is nice to see a show embracing a show's format. It seems like for the most part, the unfortunate thing about this show is that nobody really got exactly what they wanted. The people that, the big time comic book fans, or maybe not even comic book fans, but the MCU fans, they wanted a MCU superhero show, and they got a lawyer sitcom show. And the people who wanted just a slice of life, day in the life of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they got kind of more superhero show than they bargained for. And the finale does an interesting thing where it kind of addresses both, but even that still doesn't deliver on either quite satisfyingly, at least in my opinion. I know the show has its diehard fans. I'm so glad that it does. Unfortunately, it also has its fair share of haters. Now, I think there's a world where it can be both. They just maybe haven't dialed in that formula quite so well yet. So at this time, I give the first season, maybe the only season, I guess we'll see, of She-Hulk Attorney at Law, directed by Kat Corio and Anu Valia, a 5 out of 10. On Friday, October 14th, I fittingly watched the movie Friday. Now, this was a blind spot in my movie history that I couldn't live with any longer. I definitely heard about this movie plenty of times before. Really, the main place I kept seeing it must be one of their favorites, because there's a drive-in theater that loves to play the movie Friday. Now, it never plays the sequels. It only ever plays Friday. I looked into them. I probably won't be watching the sequels myself, but I knew based on, their taste, their recommendations, I do trust that this is something I eventually just had to see. Now, what it brings to the table, it doesn't bring complex cinematography. It doesn't have interwoven, highly deep, complex plot points that you have to follow and dissect. It doesn't have a bone-rattling score that's going to haunt your nightmares. It doesn't have any of those things. What it does have is character. It has ultra-rich character and world, and I truly love it. I think this is easily my new favorite Chris Tucker performance, and I was a big fan of him in The Fifth Element. Every single character interaction you just are excited for because it's going to give you something new. Now, I get it. This kind of story isn't for everybody. This kind of movie isn't for everybody. Nothing really happens. I can see how, some people watch this and they think, well, that was a waste of my time. That was a waste of a couple hours. I could not disagree more. I love these character-driven, world-driven, just spending time with these people. Now, quick fun fact about me. I did not know that the line
Bye, Felicia.
was in this movie. I don't know why. I don't know how. I thought it was from Mean Girls. I thought that line was in Mean Girls. I guess I just take any line that I don't know where it comes from, and I just assume it comes from Mean Girls, because that's another classic comedy that I haven't seen. Yes, I do promise I'll watch Mean Girls at some point, probably before the end of the year. Mark my words, I will watch Mean Girls before the end of the year, but I don't think I'm going to like it as much as Friday. I give the movie Friday, directed by F. Gary Gray, a 9 out of 10. On October 15th, I watched another film for our movie bracket, this time a 1929 classic, Man with a Movie Camera, and I have truly nothing to say about it. I didn't get anything out of it. I know this movie is revered. I understand why it is, but I can only speak from my personal viewing, and it did nothing for me. It's basically the equivalent of if I went to Best Buy and I watched one of their tech demos for their new TV. Like that's the equivalent of what I got out of this film. So I give Man with a Movie Camera directed by Dziga Vertov, a 2 out of 10. And that 2 is out of the deepest respects. On October 16th, I watched Rise, Roar, Revolt for the 5th time this year.
Hey! Ah! Raju! Akhtar!
Ever since I first watched this movie in July, I have done 3 things. I've kicked myself for missing its theatrical run. I'll never forgive myself for that. I've put the soundtrack on repeat. That was my summer listening. Most people were listening to Harry Styles. I was listening to Beam. That's all I was listening to. And 3, I made it my personal mission to show everybody that I know this movie. And not only to show it to them, but to sit down and watch it with them. Not even watch the movie, but just watch them watch the movie. That is the movie for me. I've very nearly completed that mission. It's taken 5 viewings to do so, but it's perfectly worth it. You would think that sitting down to watch a 3-hour movie 5 times would get boring. No. I think I've seen The Batman, which is another 3-hour long, good movie, masterpiece of a movie, some would say. I've seen that about 4 or 5 times now, and that one gets boring. I'm a little bored of that, but never with RRR. Is RRR an action movie? Yeah. Is it a romantic comedy? Yeah. Is it a historical drama? Yes. Is it a musical? Yeah. Is it possibly the greatest bromance ever put to screen? And there was a movie just released called Bros? Yes, definitely yes. I continue to give and may forever give RRR, directed by S.S. Rajamouli, a 10 out of 10. On October 21st, I decided to watch a new movie put out by Apple. It's called Raymond and Ray. It's starring Ethan Hawke and Ewan McGregor. Now, I watched it, I had a little bit of time, and I watched it based solely off of the name value of Ethan Hawke and Ewan McGregor. I think Ethan Hawke especially is having a great year. I haven't seen The Black Phone and Northman. I hear he's great in that. I thought he was amazing. He's put in one of my now favorite Marvel villain performances in this year's Moon Knight. Now, I think Raymond and Ray is a nice small film. It doesn't have a lot going on to it outside of its 2 titular lead characters, outside of its 2 lead actors. I think that's going to be the selling point for most people that go in to watch this movie. But I think it's well done. They do a great job portraying these, characters we only get to spend a short amount of time with, but they give us more history than we bargained for. Not all of that exposition is super cleanly given. Most of it is, though. Most of it's very layered. Most of it's told with a lot of subtext, which I really appreciate. I think it's well done. So I give Raymond and Ray, directed by Rodrigo Garcia, a 4 out of 10. Later that same day, on October 21st, I watched Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk. Now, sometimes I like my reviews like I like my action movies, good and short. I give Nobody, directed by Isla Nush... What? I give Nobody, directed by Isla Nayshuler, a 5 out of 10. On October 28th, I finally finished a movie that I started, I think, over a year ago now. This is Wolf Walkers from the Irish animation studio Cartoon Saloon. I don't really remember why I stopped after about 10 minutes of this film. I think I just got a little bored. I was going to come back to it later, and then I let my Apple TV Plus subscription expire. But, I still had Apple TV Plus on that day, and I was in the mood for some really good animation, and I remembered this movie. I remembered it had come out, and then I always intended to come back and finish it, and I'm glad I did. I came for the animation, and I wanted to see a movie with some beautiful animation, and on that front, I was not disappointed in the slightest. This is some of the most unique animation I've seen in quite a while. Now, story-wise, Wolfwalkers doesn't break super new ground, but it doesn't need to. It's got a big dad with a heart of gold, circa Luca, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. There's a good track record. If you got a big, nice dad, I'm probably going to like your movie. And if you've got amazing visuals, I'm definitely going to like your movie. Also the accents. Also, if you have Irish accents, I'm going to like that. I give Wolfwalkers, directed by Tom Moore and Ross Stewart, a 6 out of 10. Finally, the last movie I watched in October, this was also on October 28th, was The Rock's long-awaited of the Ganondorf to Shazam's Captain Falcon, Black Adam. Now, I did not have high expectations going to this one. I mean, I didn't even go to see it on opening weekend. And when it started with this big exposition dump, this flashback, safe to say we were not off to a great start. But slowly and surely, through the end of Act 1, going into Act 2, they start to introduce the Justice Society. They give Black Adam more time to interact with everybody, especially the family. And I started to actually enjoy the movie. I thought it was doing pretty well by the end of Act 2. I was pretty satisfied with where they had come from and where they had ended up. And by the end of Act 2, I think you'll know, if you've seen it, where I'm thinking of. I was fully prepared to see credits roll. I would have been perfectly happy to see credits roll there. Only they didn't. So yeah, no spoilers, but that third act was really hard to watch. It was maybe the worst I've seen in DC, and that's saying something, because, I mean, when will they learn? They had the Doomsday fight in Batman v Superman. They had the Ares fight that completely derailed a otherwise really solid Wonder Woman for me. Just, I wish they would take those and kind of apply them to their future projects. They don't seem to be realizing that. Maybe there's huge fans of these third act CGI fight fests that I don't know and I haven't heard of. If you're out there, I mean, you really got what you wanted on this one. Congratulations. Now, despite all that, if I turn off my brain for that part, if I pretend credits rolled where I would have preferred them to, and I just think about Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate and how perfect that portrayal was, I can say the positives kind of outweighed the negatives on this one. I did, looking back, I did like Black Adam. I did like this movie. In the end, I give Black Adam, directed by... Oh, he directed Jungle Cruise. That makes sense. I give Black Adam from the makers of Jungle Cruise, Wame, Colette Serra, a 4 out of 10. Well, Quentin, there you have it. That is everything that I watched in October of 2022. I hope there's something in there that interested you that you want to check out. If you're looking for some cool animation, check out Wolfwalkers. If you want some interesting Marvel stuff, there's Werewolf by Night. If you want to see just the best movie of the year again, go ahead and watch RRR. Until then, I'll see you next month.